Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Politics for the People, where I break down politics without the boring stuff. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest questions after the 2024 election in the US. Why did Kamala Harris lose to Donald Trump? Now, this isn't about bashing either side, it's about looking at the facts and the data and the strategy behind both campaigns to figure out the real reason why Kamala Harris lost while remaining completely unbiased. So, for some context, Donald Trump officially launched his campaign in November 2022, giving him almost 2 full years to prepare, whereas Kamala Harris announced it a bit later after Joe Biden dropped out in January 2023, giving her around 21 months. Both both had very different approaches. Trump doubled down on his base but also reached out to undecided voters or previously Democratic voters, which included working class voters, Hispanic men, and first time voters. Harris leaned into her existing coalition women, black voters, and urban progressives. But here's the difference. Harris spent most of her energy making sure her supporters turned out, while Trump worked hard not only to keep his base but also peel away from groups that were once seen as Democratic leaning. And that difference mattered a lot. Let's break down the voter divide. So, in 2024, Trump's strongest group was white evangelical Christians, with over 80% of them voting for him. He also made major gains with Hispanic men and first time voters, surprising a lot of analysts. For context, Democrats have always had an advantage with first time voters. Harris's strongest group was black voters, women, and college graduates. She also leaned on younger progressive voters who cared about issues like climate change and reproductive rights. But here's the problem. Trump's strategy expanded his stand just enough, while Harris's coalition, though diverse, didn't grow much beyond the voters who already leaned blue. And when you're in a super close election, that lack of expansion can cost you the race. Harris ran what a lot of experts call a base mobilization campaign. That means she spent most of her energy getting people who already supported her to actually show up and vote. She emphasized issues like abortion rights after the overturn of Roe v. Wade, healthcare access, climate change, and protecting democracy. Now, these are super important topics, but here's the catch. They mostly resonated with people who were already voting for her. Harris didn't spend as much time trying to win over undecided voters or soft Republicans. Instead, her campaign often felt like it was preaching to the choir. Another point to notice is that a lot of Republicans or Trump voters, while listening to Kamala's campaign or the left, could feel some level of mockery. May that be because of rallies, social media, or the rhetoric given by the left. This further polarized the two sides and strengthened Trump's base. For example, in some social media clips, calling Trump voters dumb or uneducated is only going to push them further away from voting for Kamala and increase their loyalty for Trump because why would a person ever join a side where they're seen as inferior? Meanwhile, Meanwhile, Trump was laser focused on expanding his reach. His message on the economy, inflation, and immigration wasn't just for Republicans, it hit home with independents and even some frustrated Democrats. Trump's repeated message of wanting a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine was certainly something young voters could appreciate. Trump's strategy was simple but effective. Go after those who feel left behind or ignored. For Hispanic men, he pushed jobs, energy expansion, and border control. For young first time voters, he leaned into social media and his anti establishment, I'm not like other politicians persona. And for working class Americans, he hammered home the cost of living, groceries, rent, gas, things people feel every day. That's why, even though Trump is one of the most polarizing figures in politics, he still somehow managed to expand into a new voter group. Whereas all of these things he's promised were just promised in the campaign, and people may not see the results in the first 100 days of presidency, at the time during the election, this was still irrelevant. Let's talk about issues because that's what elections are really about. According to exit polls, the economy and inflation were the number one concerns for most voters. Democracy was a close second. For Trump voters, immigration was huge, and for Harris voters, abortion rights seemed like a top priority. Here's the twist: while Harris talked a lot about democracy and social rights, voters were feeling the squeeze in their wallets. Many felt that the Biden Harris administration hadn't done enough to bring down costs. That gave Trump a major opening and he ran with it. For example, Harris placed importance on topics such as trans healthcare, which is extremely important and needs to be spoken about without a doubt. However, Harris had already won the vote of most trans people because she was a Democratic candidate, so it didn't help her increase her voter base, but it certainly may have driven some undecided or right leaning voters who dislike Trump away from her because of the mismatch between their ideologies and people feeling as though this stance was far left. Another factor was style. Trump's rallies were massive, full of energy, and got wall to wall media coverage on news outlets such as Fox News. Whether you liked him or not, you heard his message everywhere. Harris, on the other hand, focused on smaller events such as policy speeches, TV ads, debates, and social media ads. While those worked with her base, maybe they didn't break through the noise in the same way. And let's not forget, Trump had a nearly 2 month head start in campaigning. That gave him extra time to lock in voters in swing states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona, all of which ended up being critical in those last moments. So what's the real reason Kamala Harris lost? It wasn't because she didn't have supporters, she did. It wasn't because she didn't raise money, she raised a lot. The main reason was strategy. Harris mostly played defense, keeping her base close but not expanding out, and Trump played offense, going after undecideds, first time voters, and groups Democrats once relied on. And while there's no one to blame for this, a lot of this could be because of context, but we have to keep in mind that Harris tried to protect her voters and Trump tried to grow his. And in a tight election, the growth strategy may just have beaten the protection strategy. So that's the breakdown, the real reason why Kamala Harris lost the election. But the truth is, Trump has already won, and there's nothing that could change that as of now. And we've spoken a bit about the elections now. So, in the next video, I'm going to be talking about the impact of Trump's presidency on America and what it could mean for the future of the world. What do you think? Should she have spent more time chasing undecided voters or was sticking with her base the right move? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next breakdown of world politics. Thanks for watching.